No, it's sponsored by Malcolm Removals and Maintenance, your painting, decorating, carpentry, gardening and removal experts. To get that competitive quote, give them a call on, I'm going to have to come back to you on that number because it has been mistyped. But have no fear, we're going to get that number to you. But moving on in terms of our feature. I don't know about some of you, but when I'm watching TV, I'm a kind of TV flicker. I don't always stay in one program. But on Tuesday the 21st of May this year, I watched a program, Branded a Witch, which looked at how our children were being branded witches and the horrendous practices that they had to endure. And in truth, people, I couldn't get my head around how our people could inflict such wickedness on our future. Because for those of you who read the Bible, and it's not the perfect quote, it says, suffer the children to come unto me. It does not say, make the children suffer. So in order to kind of help me get my head around this, we're joined by, again, one of our regular contributors to Wild Talk, and we really give thanks to Moi Duem from the Victoria Climbe Foundation, and he's here today to kind of we're not even saying about shed light, but to answer some of my questions about this. So first and foremost, I want to give thanks for coming along today. I know it was a real short notice phone call in the week, but yes. So the first thing I want you to share with myself and the viewers is, why does this practice happen?
I mean, in order to deal with these issues, I think it's important that we put it into context. Now, the belief system is something we have inherited from the ancient times. However, what is shocking now is the dynamics it has taken at the moment. Now, we've got evidence-based that children are being accused of being possessed and dealt with in a way that is extremely inappropriate. Now, the danger of doing that is we are driving our children to the point of extreme injuries and even death, because if you remember, most of us would remember the case of Victoria Climbe, that African child who has taken the journey from Africa to Europe, ended up here in the UK via France. Now, Victoria was a victim of what you've seen on the TV the other day, simply because her great aunt had believed her to have been possessed, and eventually ended up with extreme injuries and sadly died. We've got the case of Kyra Ishak in Birmingham about 3 years ago, a child in the 21st century who was starved to death here in Britain, believing that she was also possessed. Now, the issue here is not to address really one's belief system,
right? Because
once we do that, we get into all kinds of complexities such as human rights and so forth.
Right, but I want to stop you there because a lot of these practices are happening in, from the show that I was, documentary that I was watching on Tuesday, were happening in churches. So before people, maybe people out there thinking, oh, this is some kind of bush thing that's happening in darkest Africa and darkest Caribbean nonsense. These are in what I suppose people would define as respectable churches. So even though we talk about, we cannot wrap it up in belief systems, is it, and my question is it where people are picking from the Bible about demons and possessions to justify these behaviors?
I mean, you cannot really, sister culture, justify this type of behaviors. As you know, the Children's Act 2004 made it the responsibility of all of us, community, faith organization and so forth, to safeguard children. Now, the reason why I'm saying is to stay away from addressing the belief system is this. I think what we must focus is these harmful practices that people are using against children, which led to extreme injuries, as I said earlier on, or even death. because in addition to Cairo Ishak and Victoria Climbe, we also had the Child B case in Hackney about 4 or 5 years ago. We also had we've seen the part of the bodies of baby Adam in the River Thames a few years back.
Yes.
Now the focus is to address these harmful practices that these so-called faith leaders are using to hurt or kill these children. Now you ask about what the Bible in any religions, you look at the 3 Abrahamic religions, across the board, there is no scripture out there that really teaches the harmful of children. It doesn't exist.
I agree.
So I think it is really an hypocritical position to take, to say or to place oneself that you can diagnose a child of being possessed and so forth.
Absolutely, because again, for those of you who didn't see the show, just very briefly, it was a young sister from the Congo, and she was kind of doing a documentary. She was trying to investigate because these practices were happening within her family, within the UK, I believe, but most definitely in the Congo, and she wanted to kind of go and explore and again try and make some sense of what was going on. And that was why I was talking about the pastors or whatever, where, you know, and they were saying, yes, we know when children are demonic. And I'm thinking, wake up. And again, you know, I mean, I've got my own issues around state religions and so on. But is it a monetary thing that they're involved in it in? Is it you know, they believe their own nonsense? Why are they getting involved in these atrocious acts?
Yeah. Now, if you look at it, the church has always been around.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of our churches and pastors and leaders do assist, support, and do good work within the communities.
Right.
But what we do have is a minority of churches, a minority of faith leaders, a minority of preachers, whatever you may call it, that really capitalize on the vulnerabilities of members of our communities. Now, I believe that it's a money-making venture out there.
And to be honest with you,
And that's what it is, because if you're perceived as being the pastor that can diagnose these issues, the pastor that can make this unfounded a diagnosis, you are seen as the one, if you like. Therefore, what tends to happen is you increase, you have more members of your congregations around. And what is so shocking out there, working with families, children and young people, we've come across families, in fact, who earn very little. But however, instead of using that financial resources to look after our children, that money is taken to a congregation, to a church or to a pastors. And what you tend to see, if you look at them, you just have to go out there and follow these pastors. They're all driving big cars.
Yes.
They're all living in big houses, while the majority of their congregations are out there deprived from the basic need of society. And we ought to stop that. Now, in order to stop that, we need to go further. We cannot talk about rogue pastors, rogue churches, or rogue faith group and so forth. What we need to do, the government of this country need to come in with a clear definition of what is a rogue pastor, what is the rogue church, what is the rogue faith group. And once we've come up with that definitions and people break the law, then we can deal with them in the context of the legal framework in this country.
Right, that is some very powerful words there from our brother Moore. And if you can get a chance to go to the YouTube site after the bank holiday, you will actually see the passion and anger in this man's voice. Well, I'm sure you can hear it in his voice, but also in his face when he talks about the situation with our children. Now, as we said, we'd like you to get involved within our reasonings. So give us a call on 0208 904 5692 or text your thoughts and opinions around the youth and what is happening to them in terms of being called witches and being possessed. Give us a text on 079 50 787-581. And while we do that, we're just going to come in with Stevie Face with the altar of Jah, just to kind of, you know, make us know so that we are
91.
All right, for the people who are slow to get pen and paper, one more time more and a little bit more slow.
The VCF contact number is 0208 619 1191, or alternatively you can drop us a line at info at vcf-uk.org. That's info@vcf-uk.org. We are not here to point the fingers at any specific person, but what we're not willing to do is to compromise the safety of our children. And if I have to leave you with anything, it's this: no face or culture should override the protection of that child. And ultimately, he or she who cares wins.
All right. Now, while I know that Stillwaters has been taking some calls, so you know we're just gonna up it a little bit and sizzle and make say yeah, explain to the Almighty, because silence, we're not ramping with that. No way. No questions asked. They're not there. Well, they're not going to questions asked. They're not there to make judgments. They're there to protect the children. Whichever part of the world you're in, and if you're thinking you don't know of any specific organizations, dial those 3 digits, that 1 digit 3 times, 999. Even if it's an anonymous call, they will go and investigate it, because as Moy says, there are statutory legal duties in order to protect our children. So it's not just about people doing the right thing or being nice. Yeah, we have a duty to protect. Whoa, well listen, we are getting closer and closer to the hour of Geese Neck. I want to come back into the reasoning a little bit more just to tie it all up. But what I want to do at this minute is bring in Dwayne Stevenson featuring Muta Baruka, because this one, wow, because this is a brother who is traveling the globe with this message to raise awareness around what is happening with our children, what we as a community should be doing to keep them safe. And as we said, even if you don't want to see it as your moral duty, you have a legal duty to protect our children. So for now, our feature is coming to an end, and remember that it is sponsored by Malcolm Removals and Maintenance for all your painting, decorating, carpentry, gardening and removals. Right, call them, give them a call on 075 35 001 365. So before we go, Moy, is there anything you would just like to tell the listeners before we get on to what I go on?
I just want to appeal to the community to please take their responsibilities around the protection and safeguarding of our children.
Sorry, Moy, there was a technical there. So could you just again repeat what is the message that you'd like to give to people?
I would appeal to the community to take their full responsibilities to ensure that our children are better protected, that our children are in safe environment. It's an issue we must not shy away. There is evidence based that it's happening here in the United Kingdom within our communities. As I said earlier on, we've had Victoria Climbe, we've had Kaira Ishak, we've had Child B, and recently in 2010 we've had the tragic death of Christy Bamu in Niwam. So it's not about pointing the finger, it's about raising awareness, and it is a fact that it's happening out there. So please do not silence. Raise your voices by reporting concerns around where we feel that our children are not in safe environment, or potential children being exploited, or in that fact family being exploited. Let's speak out. Let's report these issues, and as I said earlier on, ultimately who or she who cares wins the battle. Thank you.
Word, sound and power. Word, sound.
Wise and prudent. Be careful what you say.